right, well, now we wait. Do I have viewers? Hello. So today I've got an exciting Amazon shipment. I know exactly what's in here. Hi, Cyan. How are you? Well, you're here to witness me doing a low buy real interestingly, because this is definitely new under here, this great big box. But I didn't pay for it. Not that that was ever the goal. Well, I did pay for it, but I had Amazon affiliate income that was in Amazon gift cards, so from the US, so I couldn't really spend it on a whole lot of practical things. Hey! So I spent it on impractical things. Porcelain palette, yes indeed. I mean, I don't know what's in this box. What could possibly be in the box? Anyway, and then I had actually, these are seed pods from my very hybrid lupin, and I snapped them off because I didn't really want it to seed itself in my bed where I have a whole bunch of native lupins. So I snapped off the seed pods and I put them in my compost bin, and then I realized that they are still useful for figuring out how to sketch these fuzzy pods. So I pulled them out of my compost bin. Hi, Paul. So today I'm going to open up my box under here, and then once there's only one thing in here, so after I go over my big surprise, then I will do some sketching, but it'll be a fairly quick stream, I think, which is good because I started late and I have all sorts of things to do and I don't understand what is going on with this. Aha, okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna wait in case a few more people show up, but then I will, I'm also sharpening myself a pencil. So we'll actually use a pencil. This is a Blackwing Pearl. Thank you, Kelly. I don't know if Kelly's watching right now, but if Kelly's here, then thank you. And then, yeah, so that's my plan. So I'm gonna move my sketchbook over. These things over. I'm a little late because I was distracted by, okay, this is an example actually of how much my nephew has the whole family wrapped around his tiny, tiny little fingers. So my sister's coming over just for a visit, but also she still hasn't figured out childcare long term, and she's still working. So she's coming over tomorrow, staying for a week, and we're taking care of my nephew, Jordan and I, while my sister works. And for his birthday, I'd gotten him a bike, and it's his favorite thing ever, and he's never off his bike. But carrying a bike, even a tiny toddler bike, on the train, it turns out, is kind of unwieldy. So my sister was going to bring his bike, but I guess she packed more than she expected, and she was thinking it was going to be hard to carry the bike. So she sends me a message saying, would it be, like, how crazy would it be if I just bought another bike and had it shipped to your house with next day shipping? So then we spent some frantic minutes figuring out what was a relatively affordable baby bike that would fit him that we could get here. So we did. Because the child is spoiled. But yeah, so that's that. And now I'm going to open this thing. Ta-da. So this arrived a couple days ago. I'm pretty sure it's my order from Amazon US. Although it wasn't super clear what the, like, they don't really mark it very differently from the ones that come from China. Yeah, there we go. So, but it was much, much, much cheaper to get on US Amazon than it was on Canadian Amazon. Like half the price or less. So, come on, focus thing. Focus. Focus. That doesn't look very focused, does it? If I change the lighting, does it unconfuse itself? Hello? There we go. Oh, I don't need to cut this. Ta-da! So, I already had porcelain palettes, and I got two when Meaden first released. Oh, this is the front. Haha. Okay, and we'll throw these out. We'll get this here. Ta-da! Ta-da! So that's that. And I'm using this primarily for teaching. So I think I'm actually probably going to stick with the other palettes primarily. Does it have a cover? It doesn't have a cover, but so actually I'll show you the other palette. So these Meaden ones, that is the one downside, is that unlike other palettes that they duplicate, they don't come with a plastic cover. So you just get the palette. But I already got the still huge but slightly smaller palettes here. So I have two like this, and my husband made these acrylic covers for them. So we'll just make a cover for this, and we will I'll make a video about how Jordan made these covers. Well, it would be gray and floofy in this house. And to be honest, even though I have covers, I'm like not always the best at putting covers back, and Neuron is like great at detecting that there is no cover on the thing and going and invading. So there's tons of cat fur in my paints anyway. But yeah. So this is actually serving me quite well. Like I don't really feel like I need a different palette for painting necessarily. But the downside with this is because it's this rectangle, it's not a great visualization for color theory. Like, so I wanted to make some content on color mixing and color theory and stuff. And I was just going to use some round plates, which would be fine. But this turned out to be actually a great deal. So at least for now, I think I'm going to set this one up rather than setting it up with the colors that, you know, I would most what I would most likely use. I'm going to set it up so that it's ideal for color theory, I guess. So that is the same configuration as the Quiller palette? I'm not sure. I believe so. But to be honest, I'm not an expert on the Quiller palette at all. So you could probably tell better than I could. So, I mean, I can share what I'm going to do with it. And I think some of you have already heard a little bit of my musing on this, because I found this a little while ago when I was writing a blog post and started floating some options. So I am going to do, the way I usually set up my palettes is I do a CMY triad at equidistant corners, and then across from it I will do the direct complements. So that's sort of green, orange, and violet, but as it turns out, I'll be matching by what neutralizes. And so, for example, the complementary to cyan is something that I think most people would more likely call like a red or a vermilion, rather than like something that you would call an orange. It's like redder than that, really, in order to neutralize a cyan. So yeah, so I'll start out with those 6, and then I'll fill in the extra areas in between them. So then there's 3 more slots in between every primary and secondary. And I'll fill those in with things that go in between. So then I will have near complementaries and straight diameters across. And then I'll put some darks and neutrals out around the sides, but yeah. So whereas if I was filling this palette for myself, I might do things a little bit differently, where I might adjust exactly where I put my colors based on the colors that I use most, just for the purposes of color theory. It's nice to have something that's really permanently set up and really nicely marked like this. So I'll be setting this up as a teaching palette primarily, and then we'll see. But for now, I'm pretty happy with working out of the rectangle palette. I just, you know, it's harder to visualize how complements work and stuff with that, which is fine for me. I mean, I'm happy with how I mix colors, but it's difficult for explaining to people. So I'm happy to have this, and it was a great deal over on Amazon. Unfortunately, I haven't thrown up a link because I started this really late. But yeah, it's a great deal on Amazon US. It's not such a great deal on Amazon Canada, unfortunately. So I used affiliate income that I had sitting in my US account. Yes, the 24 circular wells plus the extra 8 for gouache earths or whatever. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, so then this is the same as the Quiller palette, I guess. It is available from a few different manufacturers, but usually they are quite expensive to get this as a ceramic palette. You can get plastic versions that are a little bit more reasonable. But this was, I believe, $39.99 US, which is, you know, it's a plate. Like, you could argue that that's still too much. Oh, the other thing I wanted to check was, aha, it does fit. That's really nice. So mostly I paint from tubes, but I do have some cases where I have full pans. And I was wondering whether I could just sit a full pan or something in here. The ceramic Quiller was maybe at 150 or so last I looked. Is that 150 Canadian or 150 American? I have no idea. Yeah. So this was 40 US dollars, and then there was some, I think there was some shipping on top, but it wasn't much. It was like 10 bucks of shipping. So like it was still, you know, not a cheap palette when you figure that like you can use a thrift store plate for 25 cents and it mixes just as well. But yeah, I've come to like the really, whatever, the indulgence palettes, I guess. Yeah, and so the other neat thing is these will actually just fit a full pan. So in cases where I do have a full pan, or I don't want to permanently sit something in, I can just put in a full pan in that spot and it'll sit just fine, which is pretty nice. And I think these fit, well, they're kind of awkward in these corners, but that's okay because I don't need them in these corners. So that's good to know. That does make my life a little bit simpler. The Richardson Quiller palette is almost 150, exactly 150 Canadian. Yeah, so you can get, if you look up Meaden 32 well palette, you can find it on Amazon Canada, but it's like 125 Canadian, which is still a lot. And I got this for like 70 or 80 Canadian, which again, I realize this is still totally an unnecessary indulgence. But I had Amazon affiliate dollars in my US Amazon account that I couldn't spend in Canada, and I couldn't spend elsewhere. It's not like money, but not really money. Kind of frustrating, but this felt like a good use of it. And I guess the thing is, like, then you're not paying taxes on it either. So really it's like $70 plus tax. Or 65. Yeah, something in there. So it wasn't too bad. Okay, yeah, I'm not filling this right now because I don't have all the colors and because I'm making a video of that, or a series of videos. So that was the unboxing. This exists, I own it. It'll turn into a video at some point. So now we're going to switch to painting. The other things. I also finally have gotten around to starting to swatch my Mission Gold dot cards. And there's some really pretty colors. So I need to spend some quality time with my scanner, but I'll be posting the scans of all of these over on my Yeah, well, they were kind of hard to get my hands on. I think they are now available through Arte Miranda, but I got mine. Lana sent me these. She got them at whatever the Gerstacker had them. So there were a few things that I wanted that Gerstacker carried, but they didn't. They won't ship to Canada unless you order a lot of things and pay a lot of shipping. So Lana sent me some goodies. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna move these over. Make some more room on this desk that now has 2 giant pallets on it. Self-control, I have none. And then we will use this page. I set this up. If I set this up like here, did I just knock over? Wasn't that important? Okay. And then I can sit these here. So the challenge with these is going to be they've got this white fuzz on them. And yeah, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to, is they've got this white fuzz on them, but they're dark. And so I'm going to experiment with some ways of rendering that. I mean, actually, maybe I can, sorry, the light's gonna go weird here because I'm going to shut this off and maybe this is a little, I'm not sure that that helps you. It helps me. I can see through these, but the 2 focal depths aren't resolving for each other. Okay. So I have, to clarify what I'm doing here, I have these 2 ring lights that have, like if I flip this on, this is what I use as my camera lighting. They're on these gigantic spider arms. So there's this big spider coming out the back of my desk that has my 2 ring lights facing me usually. And then my overheads. But they're multi-purpose. So when I'm not painting, I can use these as a magnifier lamp or to light up my subjects. Anyway, I haven't done any preparatory sketches in a while, so I'm just decided to do a little bit of sketching today. It's probably not going to be very developed because I actually have a whole bunch of stuff to do today. have house guests arriving tomorrow. In case anyone's wondering, yes, we are still in a lockdown of sorts in Ontario, and specifically in Kitchener-Waterloo, where I live. I am fully vaccinated. My sister is fully vaccinated, and we are providing childcare for my nephew. Yeah, so I'm thinking that that's maybe part of what I'll end up doing to render these, is if I take like a really thin wash of like a charcoal color, and then I add in some texture on the inside, and then maybe scrape away a few highlights. Maybe that's sort of where I'll be able to make it, give it that soft look. I'm not totally sure. It's kind of sometimes there's a challenge of figuring out how to make your materials work for you. Like, you can, even once you've figured out what it is that you're seeing, sometimes there's a trick to getting your materials to work for you. So if any of you have any ideas about how to render this, ideally without using copious quantities of masking fluid or dry brushing forever, I'm open to suggestions. Right now I'm just experimenting. This is not a like, here, do as I, this isn't a tutorial. This is me figuring stuff out. I'm open to mixed media. I would prefer to not use a ton of masking fluid, though. Oh, so about my my Quiller palette here, my circle palette, I think I'm gonna set it up without any PY150. These are the sacrifices I make for you all. Use casein. Okay, in what way should I use casein? Or are you just teasing me because you'd like me to use casein more? I think that Richardson maybe has discontinued their casein. Because it's really barely available anywhere. Like, all of the stores that carry it seem to be carrying more and more limited selections. Nobody seems to be restocking it. Maybe. Although I feel like there's some trick to keeping, like, that actually it might look softer somehow if I can manage it without huge amounts of gouache. Gel pen? Again, maybe. But the thing is, like, if I apply white lines over, or even gray lines, like, it really does, like, it's really defined. And so you mostly see it around the edges, but then you just see, like, this softness. And there's only a few spots where you actually see lines. So, like, I could see maybe doing, like, an ink or a gouache or something for these sorts of things. Again, what we're running into is painting this life size, like the amount of brush control to get something this fine, where it almost wants to be blown up. I've been running into the same thing with the Carner Blue Butterfly for the same piece. I'll actually go get that out. I still have it. One moment. So the little butterfly, like this is a tiny little thing. This is double life size. At least it's closer to triple. Like the actual butterfly is teeny tiny, but to get that detail. So I don't know, I might end up making this whole piece like way larger than life size. But then the question becomes, it's actually a fairly substantial plant. So if I did this double life size, then we're talking, yeah, it'll be huge. So I'm not, there's a lot of puzzles here. Sometimes I still just need to chew on this. But again, very, very open to skillfully paint the dark interiors, leaving a little light outline. Yeah, so I'm thinking that if I do like a wet and wet, where I paint the outside first, let it dry, and then paint the whole thing, and when it's damp, paint in the inside, then I can get a sort of soft hint of most of the way there, and then just paint in a few little details. That's a theory, but I'm not really sure what I'm doing. This whole thing is overwhelming and confusing. But that's what sketchbooks are for. I can also cut away some details, like use an X-Acto blade to lift out some highlights. Or maybe apply gouache on damp paper to get the gouache to bleed a little too. It's just, I've seen some similar things where the details are applied with gouache, so it's not the issue of gouache, it's just when you look at those pieces up close, they reproduce wonderfully. But when you look at them up close, often they look off somehow, and I'm not, it's hard to describe, but it's like the transitions in the colors of the gouache don't match the layers underneath. The outlines would be a lot of picking, well, I mean, they don't have to be, because you can paint them lighter, let it fully dry, wet just the areas that you want to wet, and then apply that wet and wet, if that makes sense. And again, this is all just a theory. I don't really know what I'm doing. thinking aloud right now. Okay, so yeah, I take this and I move it over. Yeah, let's not sit it on top of this guy. I move this over here and move this over there. So you can see most of my palette now, right? And you can see my everything. Yes. Okay. Maybe if I just get you up just a little more and get these just a little closer. I don't really like the shadow this is casting over. Okay, that'll do. Ish. All right. So my theory was if I take this, which is a cool gray, and I put it in here-ish. I've actually already got some on my palette. And I water it way, 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 way down. I'm going to take some of this PR206 as well. So I am putting in some gray. It just feels like it wants some like proper gray to tie it all together rather than these mixes, which will vary a lot more. I think that'll, you know, you talk about, you hear about using black paint deadens things. Well, sometimes you want that, that tied together look where everything is the same shade of gray. So I still want a little bit of variation, but I want that same current of this is the same black going through. That makes sense, but I also want it to be very, very, very subtle and very, very, very light. That one still had a little bit of green in it, so I decided to throw that in as well. And then this one comes up like this. So again, I'm just gonna throw in a little bit of these other colors. What's on the bench for today? Oh, well, we've got, these are some lupin seed pods from the lupin in my front yard that I had thrown into my compost bin because I didn't want it seeding itself. And then I realized that it would make an interesting reference for a piece that I'm working on. So I'm trying to figure out how to make this like fuzzy texture. Like there's this like light fuzz on a dark pod, which is kind of a challenge to render. Just trying to figure that out and make my materials work for me. Actually, you might be interested in this because that's one thing I considered was maybe I can play with magnets. But I don't really know where to go with that thought beyond it occurred to me. And then I'm spending the next week with my nephew. Yay! Which means I will have a lot of fun and I will get very little work done. Fortunately. Hi, Joy. Yes, fuzzy little plant. Very, very fuzzy. Also, for those of you who came in a bit later, I used some Amazon affiliate dollars that I had to buy myself this. And it's going to be used for a series I'm doing on color mixing and color theory. Sorry, this is driving me mad. Okay, here we go. And let's get you all lined up. There we go. Is that better? How many wells? There are 32 wells. So there's 24 in a circle and then 8 around the corners. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, these are the sacrifices I make for my trade. I'm gonna make I think I'm gonna fill this color wheel without using PY150. Making a video on the true primaries? Well, I don't know that I believe in the true primaries exactly, but yeah. Oh, you like the noises in my neighborhood? Bork, 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 bork. Can you hear the factory going? Such are the joys of living in an urban environment. Okay, stop. Stop spreading. Stop. 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 I'm looking forward to seeing how I paint the fuzzy too, because I actually have no idea what I'm doing. This is all just an experiment. That's why I got this out of my compost heap. So I need to figure out how I'm going to paint these fuzzy things. So, yeah. For now, I'm just painting basically this is going to be the lighter layer, like you see sort of that fuzz around the edge. And then I'll get to the middle. And then we'll see. How did you mix that gray? Well, you see, I started with palette mud. And then I added this stuff. And then I mixed it with the palette mud. So that's how I mixed that gray. So I had mentioned to other people earlier that there's a general advice, which I usually take, which is to mix your own blacks, because if you use like a pre-mixed or especially a black pigment, what you get is like a dead color where I mean, I feel like dead is one of these overused terms like muddy, where it's a little unclear what it means, but what it often means to me is you have that same tone throughout, which means that instead of seeing a color in shadow, you're just seeing that gray. But in this case, I wanted that effect because I want to tie it together. Like I want it to look sort of dried out, and I want it to have that same tone tying it together. So if I mixed it all from colors on my palette, I would have a lot more variation versus everything comes back to that middle. Would it be too much contrast if you placed it, no, it would be fine. I just hadn't because I was rushing. Here. Is that better? Unfortunately, no matter what I do, your angle is going to be different than my angle. Unless I'm wearing a camera on my face. But you don't want a camera on my face, because then it would move with my head and would make you very dizzy. No, there was no reason why it wasn't on a white background. Often I do put things on white backgrounds. In this case, I think actually the brown background helps to see that outline a little bit. Although, to be honest, that's not a thought that I had before I put it on a white background. That's a thought that I'm having just looking at it now. Stop. No. Stop, 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 stop. Getting a little impatient and adding details too early. So they're bleeding into my still wet paper, which isn't drying because I live in a rainforest. I'm sorry, I need to go refill my water. I'll be right back. By the way, I got my first shot on the 1st of July. Oh, good for you. Awesome. So you can get your second one soon. Parts of New Zealand are temperate rainforest. Yeah, so I'm in southwestern Ontario, which is sort of the northern edge of the Carolinian Range. So if you head further south, like in the southeastern United States, you get some areas that are truly like what you would recognize as a temperate rainforest. generally on the Canadian end, where it's covered in snow and ice for several months, isn't what we tend to understand as a rainforest. And certainly by now, the way that development has, like, this is has mostly been turned into agricultural land, so you don't see it as much, but in terms of rainfall and other factors, we do actually qualify as a rainforest, which is kind of neat. In terms of total precipitation, and yeah. So very, very humid and moist in the summer. And it's been raining for several days, so the humidity in here is kind of absurd. Oh, nope, so that one's gonna be here. We are going to get some more purple up in there. Yeah. So it's interesting, in the winter, I mean, it might be like the relative humidity outside is actually still pretty humid, but because it's so cold, when we heat our homes, the inside temperatures are nothing that you would recognize. Like the inside air is not humid at all, because once it's warmed up, of course, warm air can hold a lot more humidity. And so in the winter, paints just dry instantly. Everything dries hard. And then you get to this part of the summer where it's really, really moist, and paints behave very differently. And so it's a little hard to adjust sometimes to how paints are drying today. Anyway, I need to get my water. I'll be right back. Reading my new book while watching Lee's stream and getting my second shot tomorrow. That's awesome. To stop buying watercolor botanical books. You have to tell me about your watercolor botanical books. Go ahead and chat me up about what all the best botanical books are while I refill my water. right, I'm back with some drink that looks shockingly like paint water. Colors of Nature Botanical Painting by Sandra Mogi. Oh, that's cool. Nice. That's really awesome. You can be whatever kind of artist you want to be. You want to call yourself a botanical artist and paint botanicals? That is awesome and cool. There's no like, well, at least in my world, there's no, test. There's no secret society. There's no. Yeah, you just keep pushing through and challenging yourself, and you'll get there. I mean, I think that's, for a lot of us, we're never quite satisfied. We always see what's wrong with our work. With our own work specifically, and where we can improve and what other people are doing better, and that can really lead to a lot of self-improvement and introspection and all that good stuff, but it can also be a bit of a bummer. So yeah, like, be kind to yourself if you can. Rome wasn't built in a day, etc. So my blogging and video capacity has clearly gone up recently, where I've got a whole bunch done. So there's a blog coming out, and I've got a whole bunch of videos queued up. So that's awesome. Next week, we'll see. I might get something out, but I will be busy with the baby. However, in coming weeks, it would be nice to hear what you want to see more of. So we really want to take advantage of this extra energy I seem to have. Famous Secret Society of Botanical Artists. They have a special handshake. Oh, yeah. Modern Pigments palettes with quinacrines phthalates. Ooh. I had to add a Scarlet Lake and a French Ultramarine. Super intense. Extra energy. Yay! Yay! Woohoo! PR 188. Full botanical paints for beginners. Cooler type palette in action on a larger painting. Yeah, so larger paintings are they're a challenge. Where I'm trying to do some of that. And I mean, to be honest, this is prep work for a larger painting. I have another one on the go. There's like camera angles challenges where the angle I have to paint at to not kill my back is not friendly to, especially on a larger painting where I would have to reach way over, is not super friendly to having a camera overhead. So then it has to be sort of behind me or beside me, and that can get in the way. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is just combing through that footage. Like, the amount of time a larger painting takes is staggering. So, making sure that I have a camera with enough space and enough battery to record all of that is one challenge, and then editing it into a video. So I'm not saying this to make excuses, but the fact is you don't see a lot of that from very many. Like, most artists aren't putting, like, the reason why you see a lot of like really simple, like, oh, here's this little thing that I did in a half hour that I've edited down to a 10-minute video, or I did it in an hour, rather than like a very large painting. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why sketches are much more common on YouTube, is that, I mean, there's a number of reasons, but one of them is just the logistics of making a video like that. I'm trying to work through it. I hope I can do that for you. But it is a challenge. So I make no promises. Really thought that quinacridone red was a good warm red, but it's not. No, quinacridone red is still pretty cool. You can get some, yeah, I'm experimenting with that as well, in terms of what's available. Here I have, actually, part of the reason why I was swatching these Mission Gold paints was I was trying to find some options. So the PR207 quinacridone reds are a bit warmer. Yeah, I mean there's the Pyrrole, right? The PR254 would be the classic choice, I guess. So the PR242, it is Scarlet Lake in Mission Gold, or what's it called? Geranium Red in Schminke. Is a decent choice if you want something that's really more on that corally, orangey side. Yeah, just a challenge. As I'm using a Winsor Newton travel palette, I'm stuck with using their half pans. Ah, okay. Gotcha. Cool. Let me see. From the Winsor Newton line, I do have their, where did I put it? Can you keep track of things better, but still not well? Aha, no, found it. Okay, I'll grab that thing. A moment. Okay. So I swatched the Winsor Newton dot card at one point, and it really sucks because their dots are really tiny, but it might give us some ideas what they have in their offerings. Yes, I see. So you were using their quinacridone red, which is really, really pinky, isn't it? And apparently I started labeling all of these, and then at some point I gave up. Okay, so they're Scarlet Lake, so you were using this one, PR188. That seems like probably your best bet in that line, doesn't it? So they've got a whole bunch of, yeah. Yep. Good choice. Where did I get that dot card? I got it at a local art supply store. They're kind of expensive for what they are. But I think I just found one a little bit cheaper locally, so I could maybe send it to you. Chat me up. I am due for a trip to the post office again. I have an M. Graham Quinn Red PR209. It's kind of dull in a weak mixer. I rarely use it. From M. Graham, you find it dull in a weak mixer. That's interesting. I don't buy M. Graham quinacridones anymore. And I have a blog post coming out about that. That's what my blog post is this week. I just needed to take another boo at it today. But it'll be coming out tonight. So yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't like, to be honest, I understand why you would want it if you're trying to build a palette from Winsor Newton specifically. Um, I would just warn you that, like, compared to other dot cards on the market, the Winsor Newton one has really sad, tiny little dots and is rather expensive. $42.80 in what? How? How? That makes no sense. Okay, no. So I can get it for, I think it's like 20 or $25 Canadian, which is about 15 euros. Uh and like there'll be like a 15% tax on that and then shipping, but then like I probably need to ship you things anyways. So maybe that's easier. Like, it's rarely ever the case that things are cheaper to send to anywhere from Canada, but I can get you the Daniel Smith one too. In fact, I can just send you the Daniel Smith one because I have one that I don't feel inclined to use right now. So I started a video series swatching the Daniel Smith dot cards, and then Neuron walked all over one of the sheets and like just completely ruined it. Like, he walked across paper, across my water, like splashed water all over it, knocked it over, walked it across. Like, it was not usable. So I got another one of the Daniel Smith bundles to do the rest of the sheets for that video series, but I'm not inclined to give Daniel Smith any more press right now. So if you want the Daniel Smith one, I can get you the Winsor Newton and send you the Winsor Newton and the Daniel Smith. And this is similar to what Lana did for me, sending me a whole bunch of them, so it's really not a problem. We can send them all around the world. I also recently found a full dot sheet for the Turner watercolors, but I'd have to get it shipped from Amazon Japan, which is, yet another thing. Actually, while I mix stuff up, like I'm remembering a price, and I want to make sure that I'm not just making it up. Steven, can you look up what the price of the Winsor Newton dot card is on Desserts right now? I think that the Daniel Smith one is now 20 something Canadian, and if I recall correctly, the Winsor Newton one was about the same. They used to have the Daniel Smith one for like 17 Canadian dollars, which was amazing. Alas, they corrected that, so it's no longer that cheap, but it doesn't matter because I don't need it. I got it at the lower price, haha. $25. Great. Perfect. I would take second coffee. That would be absolutely wonderful. so I think this wet and wet solution has some promise. If I try this again like this, now this one is still not dry. Yeah, so I think the combination of doing a couple layers wet and wet to create that fuzziness and then touching up probably with graphite, I think I can probably get this in like reasonable order, and then maybe just a few gouache highlights. I think that's what I'm tending towards for this thing, but I'll just keep going a little longer. I'm probably not going to have the longest stream today, closer to 2 hours rather than 3 or 4 like I sometimes do. Again, I just have a bunch of stuff that I want to do this afternoon. Child-proofing my home. So our guest room is in the basement where my husband took up a woodworking hobby. So we need to move some like table saws and knives and all kinds of power tools out of the baby's room. Paolo says, it always amazes me how you can get the painting to look so good so early on. Okay, thank you. I'll take the compliment. I feel like I also go through an ugly phase in my paintings, but I will take the compliment. And then let's get some more of this stuff up here. I mean, I guess part of it is I have very low patience for going over like repetitive tasks. So I think I tend to focus on techniques that have less of that. So in as much as it might be true that I have less of an ugly phase or a shorter ugly phase or something than some other artists might experience, it's there's some element of you know, some techniques will lend themselves to getting to a satisfactory place in fewer passes. So I don't mind painting little details. I don't mind spending a lot of time on a piece at all, but I do tend to get pretty impatient if I have to keep going over the same spots. Like you know, artists who do a lot of dry brushing and building up color slowly, or I get really impatient, for example, with working in colored pencil, because colored pencil requires all of this like very patient glazing and mixing over, and I tend to just like cram my pencil in there and get, you know, try to rush it. It never turns out really well. So you know, as I've developed my work, I've probably focused on things I can do in fewer passes. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Sorry, my sister's calling me. I just need to let her know that I'm streaming, and I'll call her back. with it, guys. I don't do that glazing thing with colored pencils, just takes forever. Yeah, so like I think that different people have different you know, they have a different process that, you know, some people enjoy that glazing process and just find it meditative to just go over the same area, and you can just like keep doing that and not think about it. And that really works for some people, and it definitely does not work for me. Like I can't. So oh boy. And here I am in my other bleeding into my other shape here. Okay, maybe if I go here, and yeah, that's better. So, you know, when I started with watercolor, I didn't have the control, and I would go back to colored pencils because there's a learning curve to watercolor. But pretty much as soon as I had enough control to get any kind of detail with watercolor, I went to watercolor because it's a lot faster. Anyway, so here I'm going to start wetting this. And actually, there's a little sort of darker area in here, like a little shadow from a bit behind. I'm just gonna let that be there. Hopefully it won't spread too much. So we can then so really nice. I'm happy that I've bought them. Now I just need to use the stuff that is in the books. Ah, yes, that's always the challenge, right? Great to look at inspiration, but then you're like, but I need to practice, and then it's all daunting and stuff. So let's just paint something. Yes, indeed. Like right now would be a good time. You can just pick up a little piece of paper and whatever supplies you have nearby and choose something from around you and paint it. I haven't picked up paints in months because of things, but it's been a while. You should absolutely also paint some stuff of some kind. I find these streams have been useful at times when I'm not being the most productive in terms of getting either like personal work or painting at all done. It's kind of nice to have a time where it's like, no, I'm like, there's people expecting me, and I'm just going to put down whatever it is that I'm worrying about. And we are having some issues here, aren't we? Okay, let's try to get these all done in here. I'm not sure that this is really quite achieving what I was hoping for. Let's try this again. Okay. I'm painting a pepper, I think, because the drawing is easy. Perfect. That sounds great. That stalk on top is looking awesome. Thank you. I was out of paper. I just got a pad of Fluid 100 last weekend, so I've been trying it rather than get to the drawing project I was about to start. Okay. Bye, Joy. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, trying to figure out what is going on here. Aha! Okay, so if I take these and throw in some extra over here, extra over here, go almost to the edge, almost to the edge here, then I can do this. That. So I'm letting that sort of sit and dry a bit while I mix it up. It's going to be slower than I would really like because nothing's really drying. My studio is just so close to 100% relative humidity that nothing dries. But just gonna have to deal. And I'm hoping that some of the granulation in these paints is going to do some of the work for me. Maybe. Maybe. Possibly. Come on, paints. Work with me. There we go. Oh, if everyone knows he has a Patreon. I do have a Patreon, which I have been neglecting terribly, but there's fun stuff on the way, I promise. Which maybe that's Joy's way of reminding me that there's fun stuff on the way. Get to it, Lee. I feel like this would work better with thicker paper as well. This is the etcher, so it's 100% cotton, but it is a thin paper, and the sizing sort of wears off after the first pass, so it's not going to work quite as nicely as a really, really heavy paper might. Sort of thing where I'm, I do like 600-pound paper sometimes. Anyway, I'm just going to try to fuzz these out a little bit. Oh yeah, that's working. So then once that dries, then I might go in for a third pass, and then I'll just do the final pass with just pencil. And I think that'll work out quite well. So Paolo's working on a pepper. Is anyone else doing any painting right now? Or drawing, work stuff. Oh, wait, actually, Stephen, you're drawing, you said that drawing project I was about to start. Is that the drawing project that you promised me in my last video? Because if so, you should definitely get to it. I do also have a Discord server. Anyone who's not on Discord should definitely join. Do we still have Lana here? And so then I'm also going to do some little fuzzing of the edges here. Just because those hard edges never look good. And then let's do some fuzzing of the edges here. Turn her thing with a fiery sky on a coastal village, or maybe they were a few dead tree stumps. Turn her painted doubt. That's awesome. time to go have a nice stream. Bye. Winsor Newton, transparent orange. Yes, I'm glad that I've just convinced everyone that it's such a nice orange. I love that orange. Okay, bye. And yeah. Okay, how's my thing going? It's doing something. Yeah, if it's okay, I would love to. Yeah, absolutely join the server. So this is my server, not Ev's server. I mean, I'm very active on Ev's server, but I have my server as well. So yeah, go ahead. My server's a little bit smaller. The demographics are a tiny bit different. There is a huge amount of overlap though, but wait, what did I just look over? Okay, well this is getting somewhere slowly. That's weird. Well, if you're still having trouble, I can try sending you an invitation somehow. I'm not sure. Do you know what the error message is? So Discord sometimes defaults to invitations that expire. And somebody can probably give you a different invitation if the issue is with the invitation. We're not trying to exclude you, I promise. Master, I don't have text. I'll kill the invite. No, okay. All right, no worries. We can, yeah. Just got here. Love all the grays. Is it gray or gray? I both work. Thank you. And welcome. So I'm experimenting. These are seed pods from one of my lupins, my front yard. I took away, I trimmed off the seed pods because I didn't want it self-seeding. Since this one is a hybrid and I've got a whole bunch of the native lupins. So I'd rather those self-seed rather than this one. And I had it, I tossed it in my compost heap, and then I realized that it would actually be really useful to do a study of it to try to figure out how to paint these really fuzzy pods. It might be easier to see on not a white background, but you see how they're like, they've got this white fuzz on them? So today we're just doing some sketchbook playtime, trying to figure that out. So this won't be a finished painting at all. I'm just playing with different ways to render that texture. And once I'm fairly satisfied with that, I'm probably going to leave this unfinished. But sometimes it's nice to do these things live. And I'm using a bunch of palette mud colors, mostly granulating, and then I'm also sort of tying it all together. I threw in some grapeseed black charcoal. Like this is a liquid charcoal product. So it's basically watercolor, but it's there's 3 different shades of the stuff. So here's a different one. So this is cherry pit black and grapeseed black. They're just the same, just different shades of black, basically. And I feel like using the same gray all over the whole thing mixed in with the other colors will allow me to have some color variation, but also have it all tied together where it all looks like it's the same gray, like it's a little less colorful than if I were to mix all my own grays only from palette colors, which would show a lot more variation. This will like the concept of deadening a color with using a pre-mixed gray or especially a charcoal like that, you're just going to have that texture of that paint through the whole thing rather than different shades of the same, or different shades of different colors. So in this case where it is really a dead subject and where you do want that a lot of that color, it comes from that fuzz is what I'm rendering with this. I did want all of it to sort of tie together. And that's a lot more theory than I would usually express to myself, but sometimes when I'm creating this for other people, it's like, is there some logic somewhere in the back of my brain about why I chose to try this? That's about as close as I can manage to figure, if there is. So I'm painting on damp paper, trying to create some texture in here. And I am running into some problems with this paper. Just says Etchers sketchbook paper. So it is 100% cotton, but it does, like, it doesn't, I think it's just surface sized. So after you put one wash down, you start putting down further washes. The sizing doesn't work as well with the progressive wash, and it's very thin. So when I work on thicker paper, like I'll use Arches 300 pound or 640 GSM. And that has internal sizing as well as quite a thick layer of sizing on the top. So you can keep on, it'll soak up water and you can keep on working it and create more textures over time, which of course I would do if I was painting this as a finished painting. Given that it's just a sketch, it's not going to get that kind of investment. I'm just trying to figure out how to work this texture. So this is going to be a multimedia thing where I think the final way I'm going to tie it together then is going to be using graphite. So I'm trying to add some color, some variation, and then I'll work on graphite. Work in some graphite, and hopefully that'll give it some so I'm just using a very, very barely damp brush to stretch this out to the edge and see if I can't make this spread a little bit more evenly, because I'm finding all of these are a little bit like there's too much of a hard edge where the watercolor is spreading, and part of it is because I'm impatient and I'm not waiting for the thing to be at the right dryness, and part of it is because this paper, it's losing its sizing. So hopefully this will give me a softer edge like this. Anyway, this is not a tutorial of any kind. This is just me experimenting. I have no idea what I'm doing. Don't take this as a lesson. Maybe if that's a thought. Maybe if I'd done it the other way and I did the inside first and then I spread it out to the edges. Okay, I'll have to try that some other time. It's a little late on this piece. I need to very quickly stretch my legs. I will be right back. Okay, so awesome. Cool. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for helping Stephen with that. Smeagol is free. All right. How are we doing here? Okay, so this is getting dry. So now I'm gonna try on this one whether I can't just add some of this texture with a graphite pencil. So my theory then is I've got some of this color, I've got some of this tone. Maybe I can just add a little bit of variation with the pencil and then do just the last little bit with another layer of watercolor. So that's going to be my plan. And I'm not, like, I'm probably, again, not going to finish this whole piece, never mind this whole length of the thing, because this is an experiment in my sketchbook. Okay, and then I do actually, well, I'll do that one next. There's another bit growing out here. This is fuller, but I was only painting a few at a time so that they wouldn't bleed into each other. I think this is sort of given the impression of the white fuzz. I think we're getting there. Especially if I then go over with a few darker spots in watercolor and adjust the tones just a little bit. It better work, because I don't have a better plan. So then the graphite is hiding some of the ragged edges too, which is nice. I mean, it would be nicer if I just didn't have the ragged edges to begin with, but we can't always get what we want. And then I can do some of this stuff. Some extra here, extra there. Yes, these are seed pods from some lupins that I have in my health strip in front of my house. This specific lupin is a hybrid that I accidentally planted last year, but most of them are native sundial lupins, so I didn't want this lupin to self-seed. In general, I would welcome self-seeding, but I didn't want this one to self-seed, so I pulled off the seed pods and I tossed them in my compost. And then 2 days later, I realized, oh, this would be actually a good exercise to figure out how to paint this fuzz. So I pulled them out of my compost bin. Today we are painting garbage. Yes, they're lupins. So this is with my the whole lupin project that's gonna drag on forever, apparently. And I don't like dry brushing or, is that a pencil? Yes, this is a pencil. Just a graphite pencil, but a really, really fine one. And I'm adding some of that hair texture with graphite because it seemed like the easiest way to add hair texture. Also, because I kind of like the mix of watercolor and graphite sometimes. Like, find there's a subtlety to it. It's really quite nice. Somebody's barbecuing something. It smells delicious. Too bad we don't have smell-o-vision. Could have been a rollerball. Some do amazing art with it. That's very true. And I haven't quite gotten the hang of that, but I do have some rollerballs that I've been meaning to try out. Just because, yes, like the variation in tone that people are able to achieve with a rollerball pen is pretty impressive. And like I do prefer, for sketching, I prefer pen, although I usually don't use rollerball, but I prefer pen just because of the permanence. Like I find I start like second guessing myself too much and doubting too much, and it doesn't lead to good things if I'm erasing. So to remove that option for myself, I prefer to sketch in pen. You can't erase if it's just like not an option, right? And so with it keeps me from using erasing as a crutch, which ultimately never helps. But yeah. Anyway, this is obviously still gonna need some more development in terms of what technique I'm using, because I'm struggling with this a bit, but it's interesting. It's an interesting challenge. I feel like I'm getting a little too dark, and I'm losing a little bit of fidelity, and I'm not sure how much of that I can fix with paper and with just a lighter touch, and how much is just I'm gonna need to find some different techniques. So I'm still exploring this a little bit, but again, this isn't gonna be a finished painting. I'm probably not even gonna finish this area. I'm just gonna finish enough to get myself an idea of what approach might work for this. Because that's what sketchbook pages are for. Anyway, yeah, by using the pencil, I can leave some gaps and create that fuzzy look. And then because I have that outline and that fade from the watercolor, I can presumably make it look more like white hairs, but I'm not, I feel like I'm still missing something, and I don't know. I might have to sleep on this to figure out what. I'm not quite satisfied here. That's how experiments work. Maybe a few small studies, just a few pods at a time. Yeah, yeah. I mean, part of the reason why I've got so much here is just because it's taking so long to dry. Like those first wet washes, I mean, I got all the way down before the first ones were dry. Um, and now, like, I'm running pencil over still damp work, which is um, also not ideal. It's also not helping. I can still get a decent idea of what it might look like, but you know, I wouldn't want to do that on a finished piece because I can see the where it's dug into the paper a little. Lots more experiments to go. Hi, Amber. How are you? Amber, last time you mentioned something about you were switching to part-time work or you switched jobs or something, so that you would have more time to work on your bird business and painting. How's that going? Okay, cool. Nice. I'm glad the new job is going well. Just so different from what I'm used to. So would you use it? I don't really do single brand palettes. Would you use it at a different stage of a painting or just certain colors? Nope, 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 nope. Nope, nope, nope. Not over here. Stop. That one is not meant to be that yellow. Okay. And then here, over there. And now we can get the gray part, blue over here. Yeah, I'm being way too impatient about this drying, so like I'm just working on damp paper the whole time. It's not ideal. But I am learning stuff. So there are some advantages to working wet, which is when I get some awkward, to this never drying, which is when I get some awkward edges like this, I can just like literally 10 minutes, 20 minutes later come back and soften them. But pick a number from 1 to 17. 13. Okay, well, I think I'm as done with this experiment as I'm going to get today. So I'll chat with, yeah, it's looking something. It's been a learning experience. But in any case, thanks for joining. I will chat with you all on Discord. If you're not on Discord, Alex has left a link, or will leave another link. Yes, Alex? Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Alex. I might not be super active next week, but I will probably have something come out, either a blog post or video. I do have a blog post coming out later today. Yeah, thanks. Hopefully I will do another live stream next week, though. And if not, I will keep you updated. Thanks. Bye.